Beef Market Update with Ann Wasco on RealAgriculture.com is brought to you by Haney Farms. We're back on Real Ag Radio. It is now time to talk a little bit about the beef markets, and we are joined by Ann Wasco of the Gateway Livestock Exchange. Ann, how's it going today?
I am great on this Friday the 13th.
Ooh, yikes. You
hadn't thought about that.
No, I didn't, and now I feel like I'm in New Orleans, and so there's a real special affinity here for Halloween. People have already decorated a lot of the city for Halloween, so this could be a dangerous rest of the day. I never even thought about this. This is not good.
Be careful. Be careful.
Okay, Ann. Well, this segment of the Beef Market Update is brought to you by Beef Tech. It's an interactive beef industry learning event focused on state-of-the-art practices and technology. Listen, audience, don't miss it. It's November 8th and 9th. It's at Northlands in Edmonton. For registration or more information, go to northlands.com/beeftech. Okay, Ann, we talk a lot about demand and exports in terms of beef leaving Canada, but there's some new import data out, and it shows imports into Canada down.
Right, and we've been running, so what we've got just released was September's data. So we've got 3/4 of 2017 import data in. And when we talk about supply, we talk about domestic, we talk about what leaves the country, but when you talk about total supply, you have to include what's coming into the country. So there's no question imports have been running down. Beef imports into Canada down for the entire year. We're down 10%. September itself, this last month's data that we just got, was down 12% from last year. And one of the smallest September import data we've seen in over a decade. So it was a tiny month. And there is a key area where we're seeing the declines coming from, and that is specifically Australia and New Zealand, down 44 and 14% respectively. So the issues with Australia and New Zealand, especially in Australia with the previous years of drought and selling down the cow herd and their supply down, it's impacting how much has been coming back to North America.
So has this been good for, what is that impact on the prices that people see at the farm gate?
Well, again, it's part of that supply picture. So we've talked this year about our exports being up, our imports are down. Our supply here in Canada, our slaughter so far this year, packers have been working hard, getting through more cattle in both Canada and the U.S. Our kill in Canada so far this year is up 6%. So that's all part of the supply story. So if there was more imports coming in, certainly that would be something that we would be seeing more land at the counter, if you will.
Okay, so we're going to talk to Kevin Greer later in the show here about his Canadian Grocery Report and ask him how retailers are doing. We've talked a lot through the summer here about strong demand for beef and strong wholesale beef prices. That demand just continues?
So far, that certainly seems to be the feeling and the flavor. As we go forward, we continue to see, good promotions across and food service. So again, you're going to hear that from Kevin, I suspect. But certainly even all the way down as we get back into the producer part, that demand, and we talked about basis 2 weeks ago, that kind of is part of that whole picture. How do you keep more of the beef? How do you keep more of the cattle in Canada? And basis is one of those things. And we've seen that come to fruition this year.
Yeah. How about last time we talked about the strength of the feeder market. Can you update us, the audience, on how feeder prices have been, and how are feed yards still, as we joked about, spending all that jingle in their pocket?
Well, they're spending the jingle and they're selling the cattle that they have. So two things. First of all, we've talked about profitability in the sector, and the cattle feeders so far this year. We're just starting to see a change in margins now, but so far this year has been profitable. He's moving the cattle. The packer's been profitable. He's chugging through cattle as well. But having said that, we've still seen prices stronger. Calf prices right now, on average, about $35 a hundred higher than this time last year. If you you recall when we talked back in October of 2016, that's when our markets right now, at this time last year, we're trying to desperately to find a very ugly bottom is what it felt like. Well, today we're $35 higher than that on these calves. So producers are coming to town. Weather's been great. We had our little test of snow a week ago or last weekend, but certainly things are feeling like a good fall happening and giving these producers some great opportunities to get these calves to town in good shape and at higher prices than many of us thought.
Yeah, well, I want to back up here for a second because you sort of glanced over something very quickly, and that was packer margins. Packers are making a lot of money. I heard, I think it was yesterday or the day before, like $150 a head US in the South. Is that correct? It seems like it's a lot. What's going on here?
Well, margins have been good, certainly on both sides of the border. We've seen ranges of $100 to $200 a head through in the U.S. through a good chunk of this year. And again, I think we have to remember that that's been a key player, in my mind anyways, as far as moving cattle through the system. So we're moving beef. Packers are processing cattle. They want to process cattle. They're profitable. And so they're going back into the market and buying fed cattle, moving the cattle through. The cattle feeder in turn has been making money, so he's going back into the auction market and spending that jingle that we talk about. So it's been kind of all the way through the system. I think it's been a positive. Making money in one or two parts of the industry, or in all parts of the industry so far this year, I don't think you can be critical of. I think it's been a positive for moving beef and moving cattle.
Okay, so I guess when you say that, I sort of think of it this way, is that it's good for the rancher when the feed yard's making some money because he gets a little bit more bullish on what he wants to pay to replace those animals in his pens. It's maybe works the same way with packers, that when they're making money, there's a little bit more optimism, and we're chewing through the inventory that we have at the feed yard level. So it really is kind of sort of counterintuitive.
Yeah, and we haven't talked once about carcass weights. This time last year, we were fighting record heavy carcass weights that really, they were like a weight on our market. This year, carcass weights we're going to be 30 pounds lighter than last year on year-to-date numbers for our steer carcass weights. We haven't discussed it. So all of a sudden, you take that tonnage off the market when you're selling cattle on schedule because the packer wants to kill cattle.
Yeah, it's amazing how much smoother things work when we are current. Like isn't it?
Yes, for sure. Yeah, it is. But seriously, that's a leverage point that works in our favor. We don't often see it until it's in the rearview mirror, but certainly works in our favor to keep the industry current, moving. You want to keep the feedlot full or that hotel full, and those are always good signals for going right back to the rancher.
Yeah, okay. I know you're on the speaking circuit already this fall. You're talking to a lot of different producers. How much concern do you see out in the countryside about what could possibly happen with these NAFTA talks?
Well, I think, being able to get updates from, you guys on the show every day and whatnot is good, because I think it's putting some sense of, we know it's important. Canadians know, especially Canadian beef producers, know trade is absolutely imperative and important for us. But we also understand the processes that are out there. So producers are aware, they're concerned, but at the same time, what I'm sensing in these meetings that I've started to visit here this fall is producers are feeling good about the industry. They're feeling good about where the market's at, and I think that's the overriding sense that I'm getting right now.
Yeah. Okay, Annie, as always, it is great to chat with you. I want you to have a great weekend, whatever your plans are, okay, which I'm sure will involve probably barbecue, a deck, and maybe a cold one.
Yeah, not a football game, but that's okay. You handle that for me, okay?
I'll completely do that for you. I have no problem watching football for you. Okay, Annie.
Have fun.
Thanks a lot.